Hey guys, it's Tina and welcome back to my channel. Today, in the whole spirit of October, Halloween, spooky month, I thought it would be a good time to do a part 2 of my ghost or paranormal story time. So I do have a part 1 which a lot of you guys really liked, so I am going to link it in the cards and down below in the description box of this video. But in that video I also mentioned that I do have some more stories to tell, and if you want to hear some more of this, and a lot of you guys said yes, so I kind of waited till this time of year because I thought it would be more appropriate to tell it during October month. So there it is. I have some notes right here on my phone of a few story times that I have to tell. The first video had some more like intense, longer stories, but this one has is going to have a few like short little stories of just weird, unexplainable, paranormal, or maybe not paranormal, but just unexplainable things. You decide. Just keep watching and tell me what you guys think. I really want to know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm really anxious to know what you guys think, so leave your comments and thoughts down below. Because in my last video, which if you didn't watch, I really recommend watching, a lot of you guys heard some noise in the video. A lot of you said that some of the things that I've told were like demonic or something that I didn't know. So I really love reading your comments, and just a lot of you guys teach me new things that I didn't know about all that. So enough rambling, let's jump right in. So the first story is about a hotel that is in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And I lived there for a pretty long time, and then I was freelancing. So I was a freelance makeup artist. I also did some more jobs on the side, but one of my main jobs was freelancing. So I've worked with a lot of photographers and a lot of models, and a lot of the photographers really liked this hotel that was in town, which is called the Chateau Laurier Hotel. And it's a really beautiful hotel. It's like it's pretty old-fashioned style, looks like a castle or something, and it's right downtown. And I've worked there, I think 3 times with 3 different photographers. They just gonna rent a room to do some photo shoots right there, and I was just doing the makeup of the model, obviously. So the very first time I went there, I went alone by myself, and the photographer and the model was going to meet me right there. So I go in, I go to the floor where the room that the photographer rented was, and down in the lobby there were a lot of people. I didn't thought anything about it. It was just a sunny day, and there were a lot of people in the lobby, a lot of talking, a lot of, you know, noise and stuff, like sometimes hotels do have, especially during summertime. And especially like downtown Ottawa, which is like the capital. So it felt very like alive and stuff. So I went to the elevator to the, can't remember, I think it was like the 6th floor. Can't remember, really can't remember, so don't quote me on that. But I went to the level of the room that the photographer rented. And as soon as I get, and I kind of hear some noises still in the elevator from the different floors and stuff. And as soon as I get out of the elevator, as soon as the elevator opens, it's like dead silence. So again, I didn't thought anything about it, but then once the elevator opens, it almost like hits you. You know, like sometimes noise, like really loud noise can hit you. I don't know if you know what I mean, but sometimes like a deep, really deep silence can also hit you, especially when it comes like at once, especially if it's like sudden. So the elevator opens and it's like dead silence, and I'm like, whoa. I almost felt like uncomfortable, started walking on the carpet because it was so silent that I was afraid that I'm gonna like wake up somebody or something like that. I don't know, it was just so dead silent. So I go out of the elevator and I see the little signs of the room numbers, and I go to the direction where I need to go, and I started walking down that hallway. Now here comes the part which I can't really explain. It's really hard to explain feelings in words sometimes, and this is one of them. So I'm gonna try my best. I walked down the hallway, and it's like a long hallway with a carpet, and the doors like on the side. I think it had like lamps on the sides. It looks really like old-fashioned, like a castle design. I walked down that hallway really like slowly, looking at the numbers of the rooms, and again, dead silence, and I can only hear my steps like on the carpet, barely, because it is a carpet. And all of a sudden, I don't know, I got chills when I'm telling that, but all of a sudden, I really can't explain, but you know that feeling when someone is watching you? I mean, I'm one of those people who can really feel like eyes that are stuck in the back of my head if somebody's looking at me behind me, but not that kind of a, like just a glimpse or a look, like a stare. You know what I'm saying? Like someone is dead on staring at you. So that's the feeling that I got, so much that I even like turned around, and then as soon as I turn around to look if somebody is staring at me, I get the same feeling from the front. Then I felt almost kind of stupid. That's how much I felt the staring, because I was just going and looking around until I decided to just look straight forward and just go to the number of the room, because I from the numbers of the rooms I understood that it's probably at the very end, and it was at the very end. But then the hallway looked so long, and I felt like, okay, here's the feeling that I got. I got the feeling that a lot of people are standing on the sides of that hallway, like from like close to the doors or the walls, all along the hallway, and just staring at me as I walked through it. Now I know for some of you it might sound crazy, but first of all, it's not over the story yet. But then also it's kind of hard to explain, and I feel like you really have to feel it just to understand it. So I felt it so much that I actually started walking like faster and faster and faster in that hallway, just looking to the side, staring to the side, and then I was just gonna, it was such an eerie, like unpleasant feeling. And I've never had this feeling before. I've never experienced something like that. I've never, like, I wasn't into too much like paranormal stuff before, so it wasn't like a feeling that I'm familiar with, or that I've heard a lot from people, you know. So that was something that's really new, and it was really weird to me to feel. So once I get to the end of that hallway, like everything is good, I'm knocking on the door, went, did the makeup, we did the photo shoot and everything, and then I went back home that day to my ex-boyfriend, John. If you're watching some of my story times, you know that I'm referring to him as John, so we're gonna call him John. And I tell him about that experience, and I say, I mean, look, it's really hard to explain, but that's how I felt. I felt like people are watching me while I was walking down that hallway. And it was like it was hard for him to understand or believe. It was like, oh, creepy, you know, that's weird, or something like that, you know, but it wasn't taking it that much seriously. So a few weeks later, John had some type of a business meeting, I can't remember what exactly, but with somebody that stayed at the Chateau Laurier Hotel. So he just went to this hotel. We weren't speaking about it too much, and when he came back, he told me, he was like, listen, I know it's gonna sound crazy, I know it's gonna sound like I'm making this up or I'm trying to make you feel better, but I'm really not. I totally got the same feeling that you felt, so much that I started actually like walking faster in that hallway, because it felt so uncomfortable, like people are watching. It was so dead silence, and I was like, oh my god, I felt exactly the same. I know exactly what you're talking about. And he started just describing me the feeling, the goosebumps that he got all over his body and stuff, and it was just the same feeling that I felt. So John wasn't the type of person to just let it go. He liked to really explore things that are happening to him, even like in the movies, when we watched like a movie, then he always went back and started like exploring what is the movie, especially if it's a movie that is based on a true story. I always like to go back to the internet and check out what the real story is about and stuff like that. So he decided to Google Chateau Laurier, and I was with him, and we have found out that this hotel is supposedly haunted. So because it is such an old hotel, supposedly a lot of spirits have been seen in that hotel, and a lot of noises and cracks and stuff, and some people even like got up in the middle of the night and left or changed rooms because of the creepy, eerie feeling that they got there. And we even have found some videos of people doing like EVP sessions and stuff, and we just got a little bit into it more later that night, and we just learned a little bit more about like ghosts and stuff, and we found out that a lot of people did like experiments there and tried to like ghost hunt in that particular hotel because of that. I got the chills when we were reading that, because I just thought maybe it was something that just only I felt. But then every time that I went there, after that I also felt that every single time, again and again, over and over when I was there. So if any of you visited Chateau Laurier Hotel in Ottawa, Ontario, let me know in the comments below if you felt the same thing, if you had any noises, if you heard anything, because after that we were watching a lot of videos and reading a lot of comments of people that were staying there about how much this hotel is haunted. I'm not trying to do like a bad reputation to that hotel. It's really, really beautiful, and the rooms are just so gorgeous, and it's really felt like a castle really, but it's just things that people say, you know, it's just what I felt. I would totally stay in that hotel, even that right now I know that it's allegedly haunted, you know, so allegedly, everything is allegedly. We can't know, right, for sure. So the next few stories are from the haunted apartment of my parents, where I was just like one, back in Russia. They've had this really, really old apartment that they lived in. It was 2 floors, and it was a pretty big apartment. That was, I believe, their first apartment together since they got married and had me. And from the stories that I've heard, I can for sure say that this apartment was haunted. So haunted, or I don't know if haunted is the right word, but something weird was going on there. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you about 3 different weird small things that happened there. There are a lot more, and if you want me to do like a part 3 of this video, I totally can ask my mom for what other creepy stuff was happening there. I'm sure that she can do her best to remember, and I will tell you those stories, but I'm gonna tell you those 3 that I've heard from her several times. And my mom is not the kind of person to lie about those stuff, especially that she told me those things when I was pretty little, like 12 or 11, and you won't tell your kid something like this just to spook them out, you know. And she also just repeated those stories a few times and mentioned them when I was older. So she and her sister and her mom grew up in this apartment, and then they, like, her mom and her sister moved out, and she lived there with my dad and me when they got married. That was like their apartment for a while, and before they moved out from Russia. So when she and her sister, so my aunt, were little, there was one night that they stayed alone at home, and they had like a big window in the living room, and the window didn't have like curtains or anything. It was like a double window. So if you lived in Russia back in the days, maybe nowadays they have it too, I don't know, but in Russia, because gets really cold during winter time, they have like actual double windows. So they have one window and then another one outside, so it's doubled. And that is because during winter time, when you keep those windows closed, the heat kind of sits in between those windows, and it just not getting as cold in the house. I don't know, something like that. But one day they were sitting in the living room, and they heard noise outside. And it was winter, it was snowing outside, and they heard just a noise outside. My mom was freaked out, so she went in, like running into her room because she was afraid that somebody is trying to like sneak into the house or something, because it was really late and they were alone. Their mom, my grandma, was working until really like early morning hours all night long, so nobody was supposed to come home. And her big sister, my aunt, was looking out of the window, went to check out what the noise was outside of the window, and she called my mom. She said, that's okay, nobody is there, but you have to see it. So my mom goes out to the window and they see, she even told me that they took like a picture of it with like an old camera that they had, but it's nowhere to be found. Nobody knows where the photo is, and it was such a long time ago that probably it's like lost already. But they saw, it was like the snow outside of the window, and their window was facing to their like a backyard forest type of thing. So they had the front door going into the streets, and they had like a front yard, but then the back window just faced a forest and just a big yard that nobody was walking out in. It was just like in the middle of nowhere. So the snow was completely like blank and completely smooth because nobody was walking there. Sometimes maybe like animals or stuff like that. And then in the snow, in the very smooth snow surface, they saw 3 footsteps of like an older like man foot, of like a shoe, like an older man's shoe, like a big foot. 3 footsteps facing their window, and then blank. So she said that it wasn't too close to the window, it was like a little bit further away from the window, and it was 3 perfectly set footsteps, like 1, 2, 3, facing the window, and then nothing else. She described it as that it looked like somebody came out of like the sky or out of the blue, did 2 footsteps, 3 footsteps, and then disappeared, or came into the house somehow, like in a jump or something, because it was just too far away from the window to actually get on the window or in the house. But it didn't start it from nowhere, and the snow was perfectly blank and smooth all around that. That's a creepy feeling. Needless to say, they weren't sleeping that night at all. The second weird thing that happened was when they were a little bit older, and my mom only met my dad, but he wasn't living there yet. She was living there with her sister and her mom still. And they were all in the kitchen, and it was again it was winter, and she said it was like evening time. They were helping their mom in the kitchen, like preparing dinner or something. And because it was winter, the double window was closed, so both of the windows were closed. There is like a gap in between, almost like airplane window, that you have like a few layers of windows with some space in between them. That's that. So the windows were closed, and they were in the kitchen, as I said. And again, they hear noise coming from the window, but like really like scratching noise and like continuous noise, not like one time like a footstep or anything, like continuous noise. So they all go like outside of the kitchen into the living room to see what the noise is about, and they see a little black cat stuck in between those 2 windows. Where did it came from? How did it get there? How are they going to, I mean, there is a way to get him out. It's just opening one window or the other. So they just went outside, went all around the house, and opened the outside window to get it out, but there was no explanation to as how it got there. There is no way for this cat to get inside in between those 2 windows. They were locked and closed all winter long because it was so cold right there. So at the very beginning of the winter, they would close those windows, and until the like the spring, the windows were always closed, so there wasn't like a gap or anything. They were looking and thinking before they freed the cat out, just trying to look all around to see if there is any gap or way that the cat could get in, and there was nothing. It was just dead on, closed, two windows that were closed all winter long, and it was just in there, like in between those two, a little black cat. Crazy. I don't know, it's not paranormal, it's not, I mean, I don't know, it's not ghosts, it's not nothing like that, but it's just unexplainable weird thing, you know, same as the footsteps. The third thing that happened was when my parents lived in that house and they already had me, and I was like 1 year old, so that one is a little bit more paranormal, ghostly type of thing. So I was sleeping in the second floor. I had my crib in the second floor, and my parents were downstairs watching TV. It was late at night. I already got to bed. I was already sleeping, and they were downstairs watching TV. And then I started crying, so my mom went up to check out on me, and my dad just stayed downstairs. And I was crying, so she was just kind of rocking the crib to, you know, calm me down. And as she was doing that, she heard footsteps going upstairs towards her. And it was so, she said that it was so clear and so loud and so like regular footsteps that she didn't even think twice. She was like positive it was my dad, obviously, right? Thought that maybe he went upstairs to also check out on me and see what's going on. Although he left the TV on, she could hear the TV downstairs, so she thought maybe he was just, I don't know, going upstairs to check them out, us out. And she thought nothing about it, but then suddenly the footsteps just stopped. So she heard them, like the footsteps going up the stairs, regular footsteps and regular pace and everything, and then they just kind of stopped. So she turned around to see why my dad stopped right at the end of the stairs and not going in, and nobody was there. She didn't hear him going downstairs, so it just stopped, and it was weird. So she thought, okay, maybe I've just imagined. So she called his name, and she said, like, you know, did you just came up here? Why did you go downstairs? He was like, what? I can't hear you. He turned down the TV volume and asked, what were you asking? She repeated the question, did you just come upstairs? He said, no, what are you talking about? I was here all this time. Do you need any help? Do you need me to come up there? She was like, no, that's okay. And she was positive that she wasn't imagining, because it was so clear that she was so positive that it was my dad, you know? It's not like I thought I heard something. She was like, I know that he's coming upstairs, you know? So finally I calmed down a little bit and I was asleep, so she put me back down in the crib and she decided to go downstairs. So as soon as she gets down the stairs to the first floor, she can hear footsteps going from upstairs, like walking into the room. She showed my dad like to shush the TV. He did it, like he muted the TV, and they both heard the footsteps. So both of them heard footsteps going from the upstairs of the stairs and going inside the room. And it seemed, she said that it seems like they like the footsteps went up to my crib, stopped right there, and then like turned around and they heard it like going back to the stairs and going down the stairs, and that's it, disappearing. Like somebody was going to my crib, checking me out, seeing that I was fine, and going back. Now, I don't know, I get the chills again. I don't know what was that, but my mom said that it happened a few times later again, and a few nights repeatedly they were hearing footsteps going into my crib and then going back always. And she says that maybe it's some kind of a like a guardian angel, or maybe like some type of like grandma or grandpa that passed away, like great grandma or great grandpa, that were checking me out, because it never like woke me up or something. It never was doing something bad. It was just going into my crib when I was asleep and then going back, like checking that I was okay. I hope that's what it was doing. So, two more little stories and we're done. Although those stories are pretty short in my mind, I just see that I take a lot of time to tell them. So, it's a lot longer than I thought. So, another thing that was happening to me a lot when I was a little girl is when I was about like 7-ish until the age of 12 or 11, I was sleepwalking a lot, almost every night. But then also something really weird was happening to me when I was 6-ish, 7-ish. I almost every night I would wake up, that's what my mom told me, and I do remember a few things. Okay, so I'm first going to tell you how I remember it from in my mind, and then what my mom told me. So I remember a lot of the time, like almost every other night, waking up in the middle of the night, like opening my eyes and seeing like the light from the hallway and like rubbing my eyes and seeing my mom standing like right in front of me, like leaning towards me and just like petting my head and just doing like that and saying like that's okay, go to bed, like good night. And it was so weird to me. So the first 2-3 times I didn't say anything to my mom because I thought maybe she's, I don't know, going crazy. I don't know, I thought maybe she likes it. Maybe she's just going into my room in the middle of the night, just likes to watch me asleep because I'm her only girl, you know, her only child. And we were living without my dad because then my parents are divorced. So maybe she was just like doing it, I don't know. But then as it started happening really frequently, I asked her, did you went to my bed last night and was just like kind of, I don't know, talking to me and stuff? She said, oh yeah, you don't remember, do you? I was like, yeah, I do remember, that's why I asked you. I mean, I remember waking up and you do this a lot and you just kind of lean forward and talk to me. And she's like, yeah, but you don't remember why I'm doing it, like the before, right? I was like, what do you mean? And then she told me kind of briefly, that's okay, you're like sleepwalking, so I'm just, you know, I'm just talking to you and that's okay. I'm just like, you go out of the bed, start walking, so I just bring you back to your bed and then you wake up. So that's okay, that's totally normal. A lot of people have it, a lot of kids have it, so that's okay. But then later, when I got older, she told me the full story that I believe she wasn't telling me when I was little, just because she didn't want to freak me out. But she told me that the first phase when I was sleepwalking, the first like year or two, sometimes I would like scream in my sleep, and then, which I think it's kind of like night terrors or something, although I didn't remember anything at all when I was waking up. But she said that I was like screaming or something, or sometimes starting mumbling or talking in my sleep, and she would go up to my bed to see if I need something or what I'm saying or if everything is okay, and I would just like stand up, not stand up, but like sit up on my bed, and she was describing it as I was looking through her. So I was looking at her in like a blank stare, but she felt that I wasn't looking at her. It felt like I'm looking like through her at something that's behind her, because I wasn't staring in her eyes. You know what I'm saying? Also, sometimes I was staring across the room and talking, mumbling something and talking to someone that wasn't there, like in my sleep. And then she just put me back on my bed, like laid me down again. And that's when I would wake up and rub my eyes and see her, and she was like, that's okay, go back to bed. I don't know if that has to do something with like sleep like night terrors or something like that, or I don't know, but it was creepy. It was creepy knowing that that's what she saw. I mean, if I had a kid and he was just waking up in the middle of the night and looking through me or looking past me on somebody that's not there in the room and started talking or mumbling to that person that's not there, something invisible, I would be creeped out. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it at that because this video is probably too long already. I haven't planned it to be that long. If you haven't checked out my first ghost stories video, make sure to check that out. Now I have a few really creepy, eerie things right there, and also I have a video footage, like evidence right there as well, and it's more recent things. So I tell some things that happened here now in this apartment, so it's a little bit even more creepy knowing that it's happening now and not that long ago, you know. So I really encourage you to check it out. Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you had any if you had any paranormal experiences that are similar to those, if you had anything similar to that happening, or if you were in the Chateau Hotel in Ottawa, let me know if you had any weird experiences there. I'm so curious to know about that. So make sure to leave your thoughts down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Go ahead, I'm waiting. Click the little red button. You did it? Good. Welcome to the family. And don't forget to hit that little bell button to turn on notifications to be notified every time I upload a video, which is twice a week, Tuesdays and Saturdays. And during the month of October, I have some more Halloween costume ideas and Halloween themed videos coming up, so stay tuned. And yeah, that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm going to talk to you all on Saturday.